First off, in this video, I want to wish everyone a very happy new year. I hope everyone has a better 23 than 22. And I'm going to yap about this a little bit too. I think I will have a better 23 also. My 22 was better than my 21 since I've had my prostate surgery a year ago, mid-March. It was March 15th. For my new subscribers, I ended up with a severe case of an aggressive prostate cancer. And they had to remove my prostate. And I've been seeing the urologist about once a month for a while, and now it's down to every couple months. But anyway, and I'm going to talk about my health here too. I saw the doctor today, the urologist today, and the radiologist wanted to wait to start radiation treatment. He stated he wanted to wait until my PSA was the 0.1 or 0.1 is when he would start radiation, or after a year. He wanted to try and wait a minimum of a year before starting radiation so I could heal up as much as possible. And I was having PSA tests done pretty regularly there after the surgery, almost monthly. And after surgery, it was 0.04. The following month, it was 0.05. The following month, it was 0.06, and so on and so forth every month, up to 0.09 back in October. And it's still 0.09. So the doctor wants to hold off on radiation treatments, which is, I guess kind of good in a way. I mean, eventually I'll probably have to face the music and have it. But for now, he states that I'm doing good enough to where I don't need it. All my checkups went well. I can control my urinating. I don't wet myself unless I laugh really hard or cough. So I had a bit of a cold in November and December, the end of November, beginning of December, and every time I cough. So I had to wear a pad for about 3 or 4 days until I got rid of that cough, and then I'm back to normal now. But anyway, I'm feeling really good. I haven't felt this good in several years. I mean, I really truly have to say I feel really good, mentally and physically. So I just wanted to cover that in this video. So next time will be towards the end of March when I have my next blood test. That will be after the year anniversary of my surgery. And we'll see how things go then. May have to have radiation treatments at that point. But again, we're just going to wait and see how the PSA numbers go. If they go down, then maybe I won't need it. But that's just the way it is right now. It's 0.09, so I'm still in the good. But anyway, I wanted to show you a couple things here before I yap too much. And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to start working on, doing some work on the Bel Air now. And again, I wanted to put this video up to wish everyone a happy, happy new year. But I want to show this book. Now, as you remember, I was stating the last time I put a coat of wax on this car was before I took it for a photo shoot on a mid-century modern house. It was a 1959 house in Farmington Hills. And I polished the car all up, made it look nice for the photo shoot. I mean, photos hide everything, and I could have probably taken the car dusty and dirty and it wouldn't have made a bit of difference, but I wanted it to look nice. So anyway, this is the book. It's a nice, big, thick, hard-covered book called Detroit Modern. It's by Peter Forguson, and if I can find a link to put in the video, if you'd like to get a copy of the book, I will. And I'll just kind of show some of this if you care to pause it and read it. And then I'm going to show you I'm not going to show you a lot of the book. I'm just going to show you snippets of it so you can kind of get the gist of it. And if I see something that shows where you can purchase the book, there, right here, email, let's see. So I think you could probably, any one of those, get the book. But anyway, this is the book that the Bel Air is in, and I'm just gonna, they show some interior shots of the houses and and the houses themselves. These are all Detroit area homes. I know where a lot of these homes are, and actually been inside some of them. I know people that own one of them, so yeah, that's kind of nice. Anyway, the Bel Air is on page 114. Look at that, that's a 1952 photo. And it's pretty darn interesting, the book. Anyway, let's get some pages through here. I mean, look at there's an old vintage photo. That's not a stage photo there. That's from that era. That's a neat house. 1959 house in Troy. Yeah, I've been by that house. It's a nice house. Anyway, there's the Bel Air. Page 114. And some of the inside of the house. Trying not to get light reflecting. So I'll try and video so you can, if you want to read a little bit about the house. It's known as the Wedge House, a tri-level home. Anyway, yeah, so there is the Bel Air in front of that house, and I'll try and, if I can find the video of the day we did the photo shoot, I'll put a link in the description of that too. Yeah, really cool house. This is all the same house where the Bel Air was photographed. There we go, and then we're at the next house. So anyway, just kind of wanted to, that beautiful old Lincoln. And that's, you know, somebody's car for a photo shoot too. There's a lot of neat, try not and get the reflection in the, I'm just thumbing through, like you can see, pretty thick reams of paper here. That house there isn't too far away. So anyway, yeah, I think it was, anyway, just kind of showing the insides of some of these houses and exteriors and whatnot. Just thumbing through. There is lots of car photos where they show the front of houses, but like I say, I'm just ripping through them. There's a DeLorean. So anyway, I just thought if somebody was interested, and you know, if you're in the mid-century modern homes, that's a beautiful home there. Yeah, I know where that house is too. Anyway, there we go. This is the author, and I'll let you pause and read if it's in focus. And she had a lot to do with the book. And there's the back cover, and you can see the book is not cheap. It's $100, so when you buy it, be prepared. But it's a really a neat book. Of course, you know, I got a copy. I got a 59 Chevy in there. It's pretty neat. The passenger side obviously was the side that was in the video. But anyway, I'm gonna start doing some work on the Bel Air, our winter weather, our blizzard that we never got. You can see there's zero snow, and it's quite warm out. So yeah, it's been raining, and hopefully it's supposed to be in the 60s by the middle of next week. We're talking one day is supposed to be like 61 or 2 in January. Yeah, this is December 30th. Tomorrow's New Year's Eve. But anyway, I'll get back to here. I'm gonna floating around the garage like a flake here. Anyway, this panel right here. I'm gonna pop it off. The paint's all cracked and checked. I'll show you when I get it off. It doesn't looks like, from what I'm guessing, it's probably bent. I'll probably have to straighten it. Looks like it has Bondo in it. I've never painted that panel since I've owned the car. Now the rear side ones here were smashed and rotted out, and I straightened them up, and then I took fiberglass cloth and built up cloth on them and made fiberglass. These are fiberglass, and I did this because nothing was available for these cars back in the day, and these were rotted out in the front, like right in here. These are made out of fiberglass too. I did them the same way as the rears. The paint on these is perfect. The rear ones, these are acrylic enamel and the paint's perfect. The rear ones, the end ones, like I say, the center one I've never painted. That's paint from when I purchased the car. I had to leave something original or untouched on it when I got it, but I think, you know, I was 17 then, so I didn't know. Somebody else might have fixed it, but you know, now years of working on cars, I know somebody had. These I painted with acrylic lacquer, just these pieces. The rest of the car's enamel. Originally I did paint work on the car, I did it in lacquer, but it cracked and you have to stretch it. So these have some fine spider webs if you really look, but you got to really look. So who knows, I might pop those and repaint them too, but the center one I'm definitely going to do, and that's why I got my table and some cardboard and paper here, so I can take that piece off and lay it out here and slap a paint stripper on it to start getting it ready to paint. And I've also been helping a friend. She's first-time homeowner. She just bought a house and it needs a little bit of attention, so I've been helping her between what I need to do around here. So she needed some of this kind of primer for some dark brown trim. She wants to paint white, and I had some. You know, this stuff eventually goes hard, so I told her I'd bring it in. So this evening we're gonna prime that stuff, so I gotta give that a shaking, give it a few minutes. It's been sitting in my basement for a long time, and that'll save her a little bit of money. So it looks like I just got to take out some screws here. There's 5 across the top and 1, 2 on the bottom. It looks like a little bracket that would go right in here. So we're gonna see if we can get things undone. I might have to turn the camera off. I might not be able to turn the screws. Oh wow, that turned. Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a ratchet for my ratcheting screwdriver for those, but it's hard to hold the camera, and so I'm gonna just go ahead and undo this. Looks like 7 screws and we'll have it off. I don't know if you can see the paint checking in it or not, if that shows up. These aren't too bad, but I might pop them off and sand them out and reshoot them because they're easy enough to take off. Alright, let me this I'm going to strip, because like I say, from looking at it, it looks like it kind of goes out, and it looks like it's in here, like they backed into, smashed it in here. Oh, look at the dirt fall out when I tap it. Yeah, it definitely needs to come off. It's definitely better than what I expected to find. It looks like it has rust proofing or something in it. A lot of dirt. It has something on there, so it's had something repaired there. It's not really as bad as what I expected to see, but you can see here it's kind of bent, here it's kind of bent. This is underneath the, you know, this is the bottom, this is under the bumper, and you can see these are kind of, I don't know, do they show up? They're kind of bent. So I'll straighten all those edges up, clean it all up, but look at how the paint, does the paint cracking show up? Let me get a really good light, put it under a better light, and see if this looks bad. I don't know if the whole valance panel looks like that. And typically that's the way lacquers, what happens with lacquers. So I'm wondering if somebody in the past had repainted this with a lacquer. Like I say, I've never repainted this panel. This is the way it looked when I bought the car. And it does look like, you know, you can see here, you can see there's filler there. And there's some filler down here. So I'll get paint stripper, we'll take the filler and everything off. Hopefully, if not, I'll grind the filler off and we'll bump this thing out nice and straight. So it actually doesn't look too bad. But we're going to make sure it looks good and fix this up. If there's a hole in there, I'll weld it up. We'll get all that plastic out. I mean, looks like fiberglass. It's probably been there for, you know, I've owned the car almost 45 years, so that's probably, and the car really hadn't been driven from 67 to when I bought it in 78 very much. So I suspect that repair in this paint is at least 60 years old. That's 50, maybe 55. It's more than 45 years old because I've owned the car 45 years. And if it was off the road for almost 10 years, we'll say 55 years that paint has been on that panel. Well, let me pour some paint stripper on it and slop it around, and we'll start getting this devoid of paint. You think bringing a piece of saran wrap out from the house to the garage without messing it up was a chore, because I want to I don't want this stuff to evaporate immediately, so I put saran wrap on it, and that kind of holds it in place, the paint stripper that is. Probably take a few coats, because this is, like I say, it looks like it's full of body filler. Usually you only want to run your paintbrush one way with paint stripper, but seeing that I'm just pouring it out of the can, I don't think it much matters how I do it, as long as it gets on there. All right, I'm gonna put my saran wrap over that, and then I'm gonna go in and have lunch. And when I come out, we'll see how it looks after lunch. How's that sound? All right, we'll just let that sit. I guess maybe you're wondering kind of what it looks like behind where I took that panel off. Just needs a good cleaning. It's still black. Frame thing needs a little straightening there and there. See a little bend in the thing there and there. And right there. And it's bent out a little bit. We'll straighten this up. Probably they backed into something and smashed it originally, or maybe a wrecker, because it almost looks pulled out, so maybe it was towed at one time. This little bracket's broken. The one that's on this side, the identical one, I'll make another one to replace it. But yeah, this'll, I could probably straighten most of that up by hand or with a crescent wrench or something. It's fairly, you can see I can move it. It's a frame cross member, but it's not as heavy as some of them, and it needs a little straightening up here too. I'm going to try and do that with the bumper on the car. I guess if I have to take the bumper off, I will, but I would prefer not to. I think we can straighten that up with the bumper on the car. And when I painted this car, I took the bumpers off. So I've had this panel off before, because you got to take these bolts off. And then there's some bolts in here to get, you know, where it goes at. The front and rear bumpers on these cars are pretty easy to pop on and off. The front you got to put together as an assembly with valances and everything already on it. It just makes it a lot easier if you put the front together as an assembly and just bolt the front assembly to the car. This wiring's for the backup lights. Just in case if you're curious, this car has the optional reverse lights. Yes, reverse lights were an option in this era. So it has them. It's just the wiring harness for it. All right, I just wanted to show you what's going on under here. Some advice I can give you for sure: do not use saran wrap. On the Galaxy, I use this regular plastic off a roll, but the saran wrap just kind of melted to the paint. It scrapes right off, as you can see with some of the paint, but I think it's just making more work for me. You can see the filler underneath, so this thing almost looks like it. Anyway, all along here has filler. So let me just finish scraping this off, and then we'll put another coat of paint remover on it and see where we go from there. May have to just take this outside with the disc grinder to get all that filler off, but we'll get the paint off first and see what's underneath it. Yeah, you can see here it just kind of, wherever it touched it, it just melted into the, it peels off, but it takes a little bit of work, and it just kind of melted into the paint. So yeah, don't use saran wrap, just use regular plastic like I used on the Galaxy. I'll have to dig around and see if I can find it. It might be up in the garage. But anyway, let me scrape this off. I'm just doing it with a razor knife, just kind of takes it off pretty good. Plastic and all, plastic paint, everything. So let me just scrape and we'll put another coat on it. See, there's filler the full length of this thing, and there's none up here and none down here. That all looks fairly, I think it's just, you know, I can see dents in it, and I just think that's, I think probably at one time this car was probably towed and wrecker smashed the panel, and then they probably had them take the panel off and repair it and paint it and put it back on the car. Like I say, I bought this car in 1978 from the original owner's family. That was a friend of mine in high school. You know, for my new viewers, my old viewers heard this a million times, but yeah, I went to high school. It was a friend of mine in auto shop classes. It was his grandfather bought the car new, and when he passed away, his dad inherited the car, and then I ended up buying it from him for $75 with 58,000 original miles on it. My understanding from talking to Jim, the friend of mine that I was in auto shop class with, that his grandfather purchased the car new from Marola Chevrolet. From what I understand, it sat in his garage for about 9 or 10, from about 67 or so until I bought it in 78. But apparently they got it drivable in 76 or 77, but didn't really drive it a heck of a lot. So it sat for about 9 years, 9-10 years, I guess, in the garage. I think it's been garage pretty much all since it was new. But anyway, that's my assumption, is probably his grandfather had it towed at one time back in the 60s. You know, that was when the wreckers would hook up to the back, because they wouldn't pull them from the front, because, well, these era cars had a rear pump on the automatic transmission, so you can tow them with the transmission in neutral, and it will lubricate the transmission because the rear pump will work. And you can actually push start these old automatic shift power glide and turbo glide cars. The 60 I had, one time the starter went bad, and I put it neutral, and I had a friend push me with his car to about 15-20 miles an hour, dropped it in drive, and it started right up, because that rear pump, drive shaft driven rear pump, built up enough fluid pressure in the automatic transmission to make it engage the clutchings and crank the motor. So yeah, these old vintage cars with rear pumps, you can push start them even if they're automatic transmission. All right, let me get another coat of lick dab on here, and we'll get this thing, try and get it down to the bare metal, if not today, tomorrow for sure, and that may be in a separate video, because I want to upload this tonight so you guys can see it tomorrow, so you can get your Happy New Year there. Oh, and one other thing, I was showing you where that bracket was broken. This is the bracket, so that'll be ultra easy to make, and it's a little heavier than sheet metal, but I have some metal about that gauge, so I can some heavier gauge sheet metal. I think it's behind that sheet right there, so I can make a little heavier, you know, bracket. But once this is all done, we'll deal with that. All right, let me get another coat of stripper. Well, you can see the paint stripper is definitely working now. I put a coat on and it kind of turned that dull color like here, and then I put another coat on right over that coat, and you can see the paint's definitely lifting. So I think we'll a couple coats and then get the paint off, and then I'll just take it outside with the disc grinder with one of those discs to get the it's a funny disc to get the body filler off. Let me see if I have one handy right here. Let's see, kind of like this right here, kind of like one of them. Got a couple of them actually, so might have some new ones. I buy these. I bought these in a estate sale. Actually got, I think, 4 boxes of them, masonry and metal. Masonry's good. The masonry ones are good on aluminum. So if you need to grind aluminum, use the masonry ones. The steel ones just load up. All right, that was it. We'll use those right there. Yeah, this just scrapes it right off and down into the body filler actually. So this will take the, you can see there's a gray sealer, look at how that's cracked, and then the red primer, and then the body filler. So we'll get it, and it's even taken quite a bit of the body filler off, so maybe a couple coats of stripper on the body filler and we'll not have to use those discs, but I'll probably use them anyway, just clean up the metal. I think this will fit my blast cabinet on an angle, so I might even bead blast it once I get it all somewhat cleaned up. Now it's got, so they just put a filler the full length, probably just make it, you know, that's what body shops or repair shops did back in the day. They did whatever was quickest. If bumping it out was quicker, they would bump it. If not, they would just fill it with Bondo and sand it out, and I think that's what they did with this. You know, like I say, I'm only assuming how this got bent up originally, but you know, I may be wrong. But another note too, you know, like you can see the acrylic lacquer, you can see where somebody had spot puttied there and there. So this was done a long time ago. I don't use spot putty. It's just basically a thick primer that comes in a tube, and I find it just doesn't hold up, so I just don't use it. So yeah, this was done a long time ago. And you know, and speaking of lacquer finishes, that's what these cars were originally finished in, Magic Mirror acrylic lacquer. And I knew a guy, a friend of mine, he restored a 61 Impala SS. It was a 409. The later ones had 409s, the earlier ones had a 348 in it, and they switched over about mid 59 or 61, I mean, from the 348 to the 409. But he was talking, oh yeah, I put 17 coats of acrylic lacquer and sanded out and hand rubbed it out, and the car just gleamed. But I told him before he painted it, told me he was going to paint it in lacquer, and I told him, I says, yeah, you'll be stripping it and repainting it in less than 10 years, because the lacquers, unless they're baked on like the factory finish, they don't last. They just crack and craze. And then if you put it on thick lacquer, you don't want to put on more than about 6, maybe 7 coats at the most. I usually, if I painted lacquer, I did about 5 or 6 coats, because it lasts longer. It still won't last, but it'll last longer. The more coats you put on, the less long it'll last. But anyway, he was bragging about his 17 coats of hand rubbed acrylic lacquer that was a best in show paint and everything, and then within 5 years that paint was all cracked and checked. And you know, that was back in the 80s when, you know, a 61 Impala SS, you could pick up a decent one for a few grand, and with the 409 it was probably worth, you know, $10,000. And when he, you know, had it in its showroom looking condition, maybe 15 tops, but you know, I'm talking this was probably the mid 80s. And so anyway, yeah, he ended up selling the car with the cracked paint because, you know, he painted the door jambs and engine compartment, firewall. You know, he stripped the car basically down to the chassis and rebuilt it. And it needed to be stripped down to the chassis and rebuilt again. And he just didn't want to go to the work of doing it again. And he sold the car, I think, for a couple $1,000s. He didn't get a lot for it. He could have got more for just today, you know, different story, you know, you'd get a ton of money for it. But, you know, I'm talking the mid 80s. So anyway, yeah, his cracked, crazed paint job ruined the car. And the guy that had purchased it ended up, like I say, stripping it right down to the chassis, stripping the body right down to the bare metal again. There's no, you can't sand it out and paint it because, you know, you can't, the cracks will just telegraph through again. You got to strip them to the metal. That's the only way you're going to fix it. The lacquer actually will react with some of the fillers too, and so you know, they're just not a good repaint on an auto body. They have their place. I like to paint pulleys and fan blades because over time it doesn't fling off like enamel does. It tends to, the pulleys on the engine on this are painted in lacquer, and I painted them maybe in the 80s, and you can see the generator housing's enamel, but the pulley's lacquer because it doesn't fling off like enamel does. And the key to it not cracking on these pulleys, I could just give them a quick zinc chromate prime, nothing else, just barely enough to cover the metal. And then I put maybe 2 or 3 coats of lacquer on, just enough to make them look good, and that's it. Now I paint them with the enamel because lacquer's horrifically expensive if you can even find it. But back in the day, I always used to paint pulleys with lacquer. That was about the only time I ever really used it. And somewhere around I do have a gallon of lacquer paint, black lacquer, but I don't even know where it is anymore. But anyway, let me finish getting this thing down to the bare metal. I know a couple other people. I knew a guy who had a 58 Impala, same thing with the lacquer paint. The car club I used to belong to, Late Great Chevy, we had a local chapter here. And a lot of the guys would, you know, they wanted to restore their cars to factory original. And being that they factory originally came with Magic Mirror acrylic lacquer, they wanted to go with lacquer, only to find that, you know, 8-10 years down the road, they're having to strip the paint off and redo the car again. So that's why, and I find with the base clears, over time the clear peels. I've seen too many nice classics with peeled clear coat on them that were done in a shorter time frame. That paint's 1982, so it's going on 41 years old this coming summer, and it still looks pretty darn good, doesn't it, for 40-year-old paint. You show me somebody's base clear repaint that, you know, still looks that good, and you won't find a acrylic lacquer that's lasted that long. You know, a repaint, a factory, yeah, because they're baked, but you know, the repaints weren't. But anyway, I'm rambling on a little bit here, so let me get back to work on my valance panel here. It was raining out. I was out working in the rain taking the body filler off this, but the body filler wasn't terribly thick, but you can see it's got lots of dents to bump out. Dents here, dents here. You can see why they just bondoed it the full length. Dents here, 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 here. Yeah, this is below the bumper. Probably backed into things and over the years, or what, you know, who knows. I don't know how this got bent up, but this this here, I think that wasn't fiberglass. It's a piece of sheet metal that's been brazed in there. I was going to grind that out. I thought that was fiberglass I was going to grind out, but it's brass. So I'll take this wheel here and put it back on the grinder and clean that up a bit more before we put some paint on it. This is the back side, so it doesn't have to look perfect, but I'm gonna bead blast it. You can see where I kind of ground it there. But it's a solid panel, just kind of dented up. So we'll work the dents out and see how it looks, you know, bang it out. I'll work on it a bit, and then I'll hit it with the DA, and then I'll look at it, and I'll make video of bumping it out. But I'm going to end this video at this point because I'm going to be going over to Lacey's house here shortly and do some. I think I got to replace her kitchen faucet today. I replaced the shower head and stuff, but she wanted all a tub spout and shower valve hardware replaced and the kitchen faucet replaced. So I think that's probably what I'll be. Oh, my timer just turned off. Nice. So now you don't have to listen to that noise. But anyway, yeah, so that we'll get back on this tomorrow. Like I say, I'll just think I'll bump it before I bead blast. I'll work on bumping it. I think I'll bead blast it towards the end. But yeah, it's not as bad as what I expected. I mean, there is a lot of dents in it, but I thought maybe there would be rust out on it or something. These were at the bottom of the car and where everything got, you know, really. But this is the center one, so maybe that's why this one's not too bad. But anyway, I'm babbling on here, so I'm gonna end the video here. Again, Happy New Year to everybody. And if you like the video, you hit that like button. That definitely helps. It helps with the algorithm and gets more views to my videos. And if you like my channel, that 348 engine icon that powers this car here, that will subscribe you. And again, thank you for watching my video.